Perfect, so I'll do the school board first, so school board members can come up. We just have Kelly. I will give you these so you can read in case you forget where I left off. So, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Elizabeth Altieri. I, Kelly McKinney.
Do swear or affirm
Do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so long as I shall continue
so long as I shall continue
a citizen thereof.
a citizen thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name.
I, Elizabeth Altieri. Kelly McKinney.
Do swear or affirm
Do swear or affirm
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me.
all the duties incumbent upon me
State your office
as Ellsworth School Board
for the city of Ellsworth
for the city of Ellsworth
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
laws of the state of Maine,
laws of the state of Maine,
and the city of Ellsworth charter,
and the city of Ellsworth charter,
and ordinances of this city.
and an ordinance of the city.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here from the library that got elected? No, okay, so we'll move on to the councils. So, Nancy and Patrick, if you come down. And I will give the same to you. You have the option to say "so help me God" at the end if you choose to leave it off. That's your decision. And you can repeat after me. You raise your right hand. Do you want to turn so your family can see you? I know you got some families here. Sorry. I state your name.
I, Nancy Smith,
I, Patrick Lyons,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will
that I will
support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so long as I shall continue
so long as I shall continue
a citizen thereof.
a citizen thereof.
So help me God.
so help me God.
I state your name.
I, Nancy Smith,
I, Patrick Lyons,
Do swear or affirm
do swear
swear or affirm
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
all the duties incumbent upon me
all of the duties incumbent upon me
as state your office
as Ellsworth City Council
for the city of Ellsworth
for the city of Ellsworth,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
according to the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the state of Maine,
the laws of the state of Maine,
and the city of Ellsworth charter,
and the city of Ellsworth charter,
and ordinances of the city.
and ordinances of the city.
So help me God.
so help me God.
All right, and then you sign on the line just below that section that we read. Phew. Okay, item 3 on your agenda, selection of a chairperson for the ensuing year. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to make a nomination for Michelle Viola, City Council Chair. Something like that. Sorry. Can't even get that right.
Are there any other nominations? I will close nominations. All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes.
Stepping up.
I'm not gonna sit there.
I tried to move her to start the meeting, she wouldn't let me.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say I'm very much looking forward to this coming year. We've got lots to do. We have a great council. I just am very excited about this next 2024.
You're here.
Okay, item number 4, time and place for regular monthly meeting. It's proposed our monthly meetings are the third Monday of each month, except in January and February, it would be the second Monday of the month because of the holidays. Have a motion, change?
Move to keep the city council regular monthly meeting in City Hall Council Chambers at 6 PM on the third Monday of each month, except January and February shall be held on the second Monday. And should the day of the meeting fall on a holiday or election day, the meeting so scheduled will be held the prior Monday at the same hour and place.
Motion, second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Number 5, time for agenda to close. Motion?
And that's the right timing? Friday is the right time?
Yes, it's previously been Monday, but the paper has recently changed their deadline, so I've changed that to Friday for you so that I can get it in on time.
And it meets our charter for the number of days ahead. Move that the city council meeting agenda close on Friday noon prior to the regular monthly meeting. If that day falls on a holiday, the agenda will close at noon the next prior day.
Second.
Discussion?
Is this the Friday, so if the meeting's on a Monday, it's 2 Fridays before? or
I
just-
think it should be 2 Fridays.
2 Fridays prior.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That'll only be a few days.
Yes, when I was reading it,
I was
sorry.
also sort of wondering about that. Okay.
Friendly
So it's
amendment.
supposed to say 2?
It hasn't in the past, but yes, it should. So it'll read
So I'll amend that to say
2 Fridays prior.
Friday noon, 2 Fridays prior to the regular monthly meeting.
Yes.
10 days.
Yes. Yeah.
Do we have a second on the new motion?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, item number 6, time for the agenda to go to the news media. It's proposed to be delivered no later than the Friday prior to the regular monthly meeting.
That will have to change also to the 2.
Okay. This will be the second.
Move that the city council meeting agenda be delivered to the local news media no later than 2 Fridays prior to the regular monthly meeting, or 10 days prior to the regular monthly meeting of the Ellsworth City Council.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Item number 7, manner in which meetings are to be conducted. Suggested resolve.
There does need to be a change on section 1, number 3. Should say local news media on 2 Fridays prior to the regular meeting.
He said that.
Yeah, but the rules.
Oh, no, what's the
The
word?
rules.
Oh, okay, yeah. Gotcha. I see, yeah.
I also had a change to the Roberts, to the,
Yeah.
to the rules. It says a majority vote of the full city council on number 6. 4 out of 7 members shall constitute the necessary authority to bind the city council in the city in all matters of city business. I think it should be added unless stated otherwise in the city charter, because I think the charter states in some areas that it needs to be a supermajority. Steve?
I'd like to suggest we strike number 8, and I say that very softly. That was proposed because I, as a counselor, was speaking as a citizen from the podium. I don't see that that's any longer necessary, but I would like to strike that. And if not, I'd like to put number 9 back in there that we had last year, the counselor comments. If we can't strike number 8.
Can you remind me what number 9 was last year?
Yeah, and if we do it that way, I would like to see it moved.
That was, number 9 was added not too long ago to have that counselor comments section at the end of the agenda for counselors to have their comments.
Yeah.
It's just not on this version.
What now? Yeah, I got one for everyone. You like my little guy?
He's a ninja.
Has everyone got one?
Minutes. Thank you.
Number 8 was.
Steve, can you send one more down, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's got extras.
Oh.
We're good, thank you.
Number 8 was established to prevent a counselor from speaking as a citizen. And number 9 was added as a way for a counselor to speak. And I noticed it's not on this year's.
I probably just pulled an old version. That was my error.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine. You don't need number 9 if we get rid of number 8, but I would caution everybody that nobody liked the fact that I spoke as a citizen from the podium. I don't see that that's going to be an issue going forward. But I would like to strike number 8. And if the council doesn't agree to that, maybe we could establish number 9, be put back in and put it below the citizens' comments, so it's not at the very end of the meeting where everyone wants to go home.
This should be essentially as it's been for the last year, except comments would happen directly after citizen comments.
That's a
except at the
suggestion, yes. That was put, 9 was put in there to satisfy the speaking of a council member on a non-agenda item. And I would like to see number 8 go away. There is occasions that a councilor may need to speak from the podium. I had to use that when I first was elected the first year, and it was stopped. And I don't see that that's a need any longer. I use that as a method to speak about non-agenda items. Now we have a different council. I don't see that I have the need to do it, but certainly would like to see the council be able to speak as a citizen if they chose, and if the council doesn't agree with that, perhaps we could put number 9 from last year below the citizen comment. I realize I'm talking about a lot of things here.
Yeah, I certainly think councilors should be able to speak to non-agenda items for 3 minutes. Doesn't matter much to me whether it's at the beginning or the end. I suppose it could be appropriate for certain items if you want to differentiate, take off your counselor hat, put on a citizen hat, and physically move yourself. It could create a nice separation.
I think it's important to allow a counselor to speak as a citizen like every other citizen is allowed to do.
How did last year work with 9 in place for the council?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it's good to have 9 in there, sort of regardless, as a separate question from 8. Like John, I don't have any particular care about where on the agenda that is.
I just didn't like it on the last of the agenda because everyone's ready to go home.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah,
There's some
everyone's
exhaustion
just
by
tired
then.
and ready to go home.
I'd support keeping 9 in place and moving, or including 9 and moving up the counselor comments to where Steve is suggesting.
So have a citizen comments and then council comments.
So it'd be following the citizens' comments.
So that looks like removing 8, changing the word to prior to adjournment to directly after citizen comments on number 9.
I think keeping 8 in place.
Keeping 8.
And then I would
Will not
support
be
keeping
permitted.
8 in place.
Yeah.
And then 9 subject to Steve's requested amendment to the timing of the comments from the councilors.
Yeah, that seems like a good kind of compromise, because what we say can happen around the same time. But that seems good to me.
Yep.
Do we have to
Everyone
vote on
agree?
those changes specifically, or only we put on those changes and then we vote a single motion?
Correct, yeah. Anything else?
So if I understand this right, the general consensus is we keep 8, but we put number 9 in line with the citizens' comments, right, under citizens' comments, is that what we're all? That's cool with me.
Yes.
Everyone agree to that?
So what I have for changes is section 1, item 3, to make that Monday the second prior Friday. I have section 2, item 6, to add at the end of that, unless otherwise required by city charter. And then we're going to keep 8 in place, and 9 will be left in place, except instead of saying prior to adjournment, it will say after citizen comment.
Yep.
Okay.
So move to approve the rules of order with the amendments that Tony just listed, and they shall continue in force until the Monday next following the regular city election pursuant to Article 2, Section 2.07 of the city charter. Each meeting is to be conducted by Robert's Rules of Order unless otherwise provided for.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those, I'm sorry, all those,
Let's sit here quietly forever.
Our hands are ready.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna get my brain in gear here tonight. Okay. Item number 8, council stipend and the manner of its distribution. Maximum allowable stipend is $3,000 for the chair and $2,400 for each councilor. Amount budgeted for FY '23 was $2,500 for the chair and $2,000 for each councilor. Would you like?
Move that the council chair will receive a stipend of $2,500 and members of the city council will receive a stipend in the amount of $2,000 per councilor for the period of November 2023 through October 2024. Distribution of the stipend will be first pay period in December.
Second.
Any further discussion? All approved? Unanimous. Appointment of Finance Committee. This committee is, it's an incredibly important committee. And honestly, I'm going to ask Nancy and Patrick, it's really great for first-year counselors to participate on this. And so I'd like to have you think about it. If, I'm not sure, do I have to do it tonight, or can we let them think about it and get some information? Do you know? And do it
I
on Monday?
think if you're going to let them think about it, that's fine, but you should at least have a interim, if you will, for this Friday's finance committee, unless you're postponing this Friday's finance committee.
Okay,
Because you've got to have 3 people sign that warrant for Friday.
okay. Have you heard of the Finance Committee? Are you familiar with it? It meets on Friday mornings at 7:15, unless it's a holiday. It's, the biggest problem that we had last year, honestly, is because there was 3 of us and Casey was the alternate, but if either Tammy or I or someone couldn't make it, we only had 2 on the committee. And what I'd like to do is have the alternate be able to attend the meetings also, so that we have a regular 4 all the time that can sign and participate.
What's the council's rule for quorum? So is that a regularly noticed meeting, subject to all public comment?
It is, and it's recorded.
It's not broadcast.
It's not
Live.
broadcast, but it's videotaped
Okay.
and then put on. But it's not live just because it's so early, the staff isn't here yet.
Yep, okay, no, just-
Once in a while, we've had a couple of glitches that we couldn't get it done, but normally we do.
so you're proposing 3 regular members and 1 alternate, but all 4 attend if they're
Correct.
able to.
And then other councilors can attend too. I mean, Councilor Howland attends quite often. We have some of the public that also attends.
We recently, Tanner has recently looked into this for the HR committee about council quorums at other committees, and it seemed the city's council responded that there could be more than 3 councilors present at any committee, and that those members of the committee could vote with the power of that committee, and it wouldn't constitute a council meeting. So, is that how you understood the response?
We don't vote at the finance committee meeting though anyway. There's no action taken.
There's
It's
no
all
action
just-
taken, it's all, yeah.
It's recommendation.
Advisory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question, how long do these meetings normally go?
Normally, they're completed by 8 a.m. Once in a while, if there are quite a few things that need discussion, staff will come before the committee, for suggestions. So if there's a few of those, sometimes it'll be a little longer, 8:30. I don't think we've ever been later than 8:30, have we?
I don't think so. Typically, I typically ask staff to be here by 7:30. So the first 15 minutes, we can do my report and finance report, and then get into the staff. And I try not to unless there's unusual things happening. I try not to have more than 2 staff reporting on particular items to kind of keep into that 8 o'clock time window, because I know folks in the past have had to get to work, so.
Yeah.
Chair Beal, if you want to wait until next Monday, I think you can, because you do have Counselor Hanson as an alternate. If she could be present on Friday to sign that warrant, that would cover us for having 3 signatures.
I totally can't, though I have a 7:30 meeting.
Okay.
This Friday I do.
She could still sign after the fact.
But I would
But
be
we
happy
need-
to sign after the fact if we need to.
Okay.
So that would cover you to give people time to think about.
That would-
And this is every Friday?
It's every Friday. We didn't last Friday because it was a holiday, but other than holidays, we usually.
Pretty consistent. Yeah, around the election, everything's been kind of haywire.
Yeah.
So the last couple of weeks, we haven't met, but.
Usually the first warrant of the year too, we don't, so that first July, and that time we don't have one either.
I'll just say I was gonna say, my hesitation is I assumed as a new counselor that would not be a role that I would be asked, so I didn't give it any thought or look into it more with the expectation. I'd appreciate, if it works to get through this week, to have a little bit of time to learn more about what it is. I'm interested and cautious because of the time commitment, but
Yeah.
I'd like to know more.
And 7:15 is traditionally the time it's been.
It is. I think it used to be 7 a long time ago, but that way people can get to work
Yeah.
directly. But I know that if you have to be to work early, or some people, if they have, children, they need to get on the bus, that makes it difficult.
Yeah, that's my only, my son, daycare and school and all that. But yeah, so I wouldn't say I could do 8 easily, 100%. But no, I'd be happy to consider it more and talk
Okay.
to
We'll
my
talk.
wife
And then-
about that.
Okay, that would be great. And then if anyone else too that would like to participate in the finance committee. Stephen, would you like to?
Yeah, I served the first year.
Okay.
And the question I would have about that is, when I served, there was a conversion period where all was computerized, and I noticed in the last year, when the 2 of you were back on, they were back to paper copies. So I assume it will go forward with paper copies. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
We have both.
You have both?
Yes.
Okay.
It's easier to read those invoices that way.
Yeah. I'm also interested.
You're also interested, okay. So if you wouldn't mind emailing me, we're going to go further because we're going to need you to do that, to choose the committees, the other committees. But if those that are interested in the finance committee, if you wouldn't mind and commit to it. That's the only thing that I am stressing is, I mean, it was really great with Councilor Hanson being able, well, if two people can't attend the meeting, then we have to cancel the meeting. And so during March and February, when people are on vacation, we had a bit of a problem, and then the summer months too. So it would be great if we could have 4 people that could commit to the Fridays, as much as possible.
And so for this week, will it be good enough for me to sign that on
Yes.
Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's fine.
Yeah, because Tammy and I will both be there. Can I have a motion to table that item until Monday's meeting?
Move to table.
Second.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Thanks. Signing of warrants. That the warrants directed to the treasurer for payment is signed by the city manager and 3 members of the finance committee.
Does it have to be 3 members per the charter? Like, would it also just make your life easier if it only had to be 2, or is it a charter thing?
Can we?
I don't think it's in the charter. I think it was just in
Yeah.
the organizational process.
It used to be 2.
Yeah, that's what I.
2 of the 3.
2.
So,
I'm not sure when it changed, but that is what it has been for the last at least 3 years.
Because it was always at least 2, and then the city manager.
so to be a 3.
So I suppose you could change it if you would like.
I mean, if there are enough people, if there are really 4 people who can make that meeting and want to make that meeting, like, great, have it be 3 people. But if that is actually a tight spot that we could resolve.
What was it that prompted it from going from 2 signatures to 3?
I don't know that any of us were here when that change occurred.
Were there instances last year where the warrant was held up by lack of signatures?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were.
It's enough of a reason.
And the auditors check that out too.
Yep.
I have to look up the table of contents, but I'm almost certain that how many people have to sign a warrant is not part of the charter.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it is.
You guys haven't memorized the charter since you...
Usually we wait till Gary Fortier runs from his house over here if we're gonna get something wrong.
Payments, 705.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion then that the warrants directed to the treasurer for payment be signed by the city manager and 2 members of the finance committee.
It's exactly what it says. The warrants will be issued by the treasurer and countersigned by the city manager and a majority of the city council finance committee members, which is 2.
Thank you, Jason.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Question, Madam Chair. Is the Finance Committee currently 3 with 1 alternate, and you're proposing making it 4? Or 4 with an alternate?
No, 3 with an alternate, but all 4 commit to attend. So if someone can't attend, then we
Okay.
still have 3.
And everybody's up to speed? Okay.
Correct, yep.
Thank you.
Welcome. Further discussion? All in favor? Yes. Okay, item 11, discussion and approval of the city manager search process and timeline.
Okay, I'll just present our timeline, and there are a couple of questions that we need to discuss before we can kind of finalized. So this is from the HR committee, which is Tammy is the chair, and I'm on it, and John is on it. And of course, we've started the city manager search. I think we have somewhere between 15 and 17 applicants at this point. And at our last meeting, we went through what the process ought to be, and then we thought to bring that here so that you could all approve that process. So here we are on November 13th, and our plan is that, I think you have these binders?
I do have these binders.
So there are 7 binders that have every resume and cover letter to be given to each one of us. And the other thing that's in that binder, so every resume and application is there, and we did a survey of city staff, so the results of this city staff survey, which is basically like, what are you looking for in a city manager? And then the third thing that's in there is a rubric to give us all just some guidelines, so as you go through these 15 or so applications, you fill out the rubric and kind of score everyone so that we can compare amongst the 7 of us. And then, so our hope is to give out the binder today. I think we need to print more rubrics, because I don't think we have a rubric for every single applicant. So either you can photocopy them yourself, or we can try to get them here
To you
by
on
next Monday. Yep.
It doesn't look like the community information is in here or the stuff, but I will
Oh, okay.
email it to
That'll be
everybody.
updates.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Information.
We did have, I'll just, as a brief kind of recap, we had a meeting last week that was with some any community members that wanted to show up, and also any staff that wanted to show up, looking for input, again, in a broad question, what are you looking for in a city manager? And there were some unifying themes, and I'll just read them quickly. So people were looking for a strong manager, someone who's able to unite different departments and inspire teamwork and good morale, understanding of municipal government compared to, say, understanding how business works, understanding how government works is different, especially in relationship to budget and finance. Then number 3 was understanding financial and budgetary aspect and the business attraction plan. Number 4 was having a good understanding of Ellsworth and the surrounding towns and how we fit together, especially as a service center and the towns that are surrounding us. Number 5 was the ability to collaborate, especially with the school board and outside organizations and nonprofits. 6 was customer service, and the phrase front of house, as in a restaurant, got used a lot. Visibility and availability to citizens, good communication with the media, things like that. 1 was visionary and forward-looking, being able to think out of the box and look at the big picture for the future of Ellsworth. So those were basically the big things, and then you'll see what the staff survey showed. So everyone will get their binder today, and we're hoping that everyone can look through these resumes and fill out these rubrics and get that all back to us by our next meeting, which is November 28th. And on November, so that's 2 weeks from now, right? My calendar's
Is that Tuesday?
saying
Is it
that-
a Tuesday?
Last time I got my dates wrong so badly, so it's the Tuesday 2 weeks from now. And then from there, at that meeting, we're hoping to pare it down from 15 or so down to 5 or 6 or so, and then do interviews from there. So there's 2, and then in the month of December, end of January to December, we'll call references, schedule the interviews. So 2 questions, I think, for this group before we, so then interviews in December, and then in January, maybe if we are able to pare it down to a couple people, do some meet and greets, and meet with the staff, meet with the community, and then on from there. So 2 questions for us all. Number 1 is, if we're gonna interview, again, 5 or 6 candidates, do people want to all be involved in all of those interviews, or would you prefer the HR committee to do those initial interviews and then bring back recommendations? I'll just ask both questions, then we can discuss. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is that the staff at our public forum meeting pretty strongly universally requested that there be a representative from the staff. during the interviews or during this early process or this review of candidates. So I know there are some, Tammy knows better than I do, like, kind of legally what can be done there or logistically what can be done there, but since that request was made so strongly, thought I ought to bring it up here. So do you all want to do the interviews, and in what way can we involve the staff in this process?
Can I make one suggestion or offer up one thought? So I work with a nonprofit and we do the hiring, it's a mix of me and board members. And one of the points that's really important is if you're gonna be in on interviews, you should be in on all of them. That there's a bias and a lack of continuity if people are only in on some of the interviews. So if we are talking about the full council being on interviews or some portion of us in addition to the hiring committee, it ought to be consistent that you're committing to all of them. That said, too many people can completely overwhelm candidates and make for a less effective process. So I would offer that while we're in conversation.
Yeah, so you're saying probably go one way or the other, basically.
Right. To tap in for one or two interviews isn't helpful and actually makes it confusing for the process. Because you bring your own perspectives to it, and if it's not consistent, then it, I think, skews things.
What is the HR committee? How is it comprised?
It's the three of us.
These
Tammy,
three?
John, Casey.
Okay.
Or at least that's what it is right now. We haven't determined our committees, but if it stays the same, it's the three of us.
Okay, so it's just the three of you, and then we're talking maybe a member of the staff as well. That's the second question.
The difficulty, and what came up in the ad hoc committee meeting, and staff meeting with the HR committee last week was the confidentiality of these applications that even if redacted, still in a small town, some of them would likely be obvious enough that we'd know who we were talking about, but we're not really allowed to get that information out to the public. That said, a lot of the staff of the city has, these decades-long tenures and perspectives, and they'll be working with city managers more than the council will. And to quote one of the staff members, they would have questions for these candidates that we wouldn't think to have, but that are applicable, and that would really, be telling for a manager. So incorporating staff's questions and concerns in a way that keeps confidentiality and maintains the process. That's kind of the crux of the issue here, I think.
Well,
So
go ahead.
Well, we were just hoping that if it's a small group like the HR committee, that we can take some of those staff questions that aren't maybe directly asked of specific candidates, but that are general questions, and ask them those questions during the interviews, and also sort of advocate for what we heard the community members and the staff members want and look for as we're going through the rubric of the interview process, and then pass that along to the council and say, here's our views, but also when taken into account these other issues that the staff brought up, here's how that kind of affected how we filled out this rubric.
Councilor Allen?
I like the idea of all the councilors being involved in that, when your question was all or some, and I would think that that's a pretty important position, we all should maybe be involved in that. Not hard and fast on that, but it's just a thought.
May I suppose we could say the three of people on the HR committee will be in the interview, doing this process throughout. And I suppose we could say any city councilor who wants to opt in, if they opt in for the full, complete process. That's just me thinking out loud. That would be one way of doing it where you wouldn't necessarily have to have all 7, but if you had a particular interest.
If I might suggest, too, if you had, I would say 4 at the most, until you got down to the 3 or the second interview.
Mhm.
And then the second interview, I I think it would be very appropriate to have the entire council at the second interview. But the first interview is where you're just kind of, let's say, weeding them out. It would be, 3 or 4 if you decide you'd like to have one more in the interview process. Because once you get to the final, that's when staff will meet those people. And the only thing that I question with having the staff participate in the entire process is you're gonna have one person. How many staff members do you have? 70?
108.
108?
Our last
So you're gonna
payroll.
have one person representing the entire 108 staff. That's kind of a difficult how you choose. But if they're in at the end of the process and have a chance to meet the person, the last 3, and have input in those meetings, I think that would be
Yeah.
very.
Well, I think they really want their input up front, which I understand, but maybe John's idea of like, let's hear all the questions that you think are important and make sure we know those questions, or we know your biggest concerns or feelings up front, so that because it would be complicated to have a group of 3 or 4 for whom this much information is visible, and then one person in the group for whom this much information is visible.
Exactly.
It will be hard to do it that way. I'm not even sure 100% sure it's possible to do it right.
And you can, the thing is you have a certain amount of questions too, and there are questions that you have to have as a counselor, that and then bringing in, there's no possible way, I'm sure, that you can bring in questions from 106 people, but you can look at the feel of those questions and ask appropriately, like you had said. I think that would work much better.
Yeah,
It'd
and
be much
those
more efficient.
and those who showed up last week, there were very consistent themes among. It wasn't like it was how many, maybe 8 people showed up from the staff, and it wasn't like they were 8 totally different thoughts, actually. So we can find themes.
Councilor Howell?
To reinforce that, isn't that really how the candidates night works? The citizens put in their questions, and then the moderator kind of groups them together and hits a note of 10 or 12 at once. That's really what we've all experienced there, am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
So how about a 3-step process of, you've got these 15 to 17 candidates, the HR committee does the interviews, processes, weeds out some of them, as you say, down to 5 to 7, then the entire council's involved, weeds those down to 2 to 3, and then interviews with the staff and tour facilities and that sort of thing.
At that point, they become public. I mean, they have to make a
Right.
commitment to the public anyway, so then it's not confidential because you've got their permission.
And the rubric has started that early process to help the hiring committee sort through the initial list to thin it by half by the sound of it. I like the sound of it.
So we do actually have copies for everyone
great.
for the rubric, and it includes like a scoring sheet type of thing, and it covers education, experience, administrative and management ability, governmental budget and finance, labor relations and personnel experience, community relations experience, council relations experience, intergovernmental relations, innovations and major achievements, understanding of Ellsworth and regional impact, and any other important skills and experiences. And we did look this over, and based on the information that we received from the community and the staff, we kind of gleaned out some of that information and put it on the rubric as well. So, and then there's also an explanation of what each of those different categories, the definition for those as well. So you'll each get a binder as well as that stack of papers over there. And I want to remind everyone of the confidentiality of these. And
So just to clarify, we'll see all the applications, but then we'll wait for the,
Yeah, and then you'll pass that back to us. We will
Yes.
see what everyone said.
we'll tabulate it and
Yeah.
weight it.
okay. And then you will interview first interview 5 to 7 people. So that'll be the first in-person interview, and then we'll have the final. Okay. That's helpful. That all sounds good to me.
So we're assuming like the first set of interviews, if they're out of state, would do it via Zoom, and then usually in the past, what we've done is paid for them to come here if it's the second interview.
Okay.
And is the staff survey in that thing there, or no?
No,
You're gonna
I'm
email
gonna
that
email
to
that.
us?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then for deadlines, dates?
Yeah, so if everybody could get their rubric stuff back to us by the 28th, which is 2 weeks plus a day from today.
And you said, I'm sorry,
Then I was vague after that.
Okay.
I said December interviews, January, we'll update you. I don't want to be stupidly optimistic, but
And it is tough coming into the holidays, and,
Yeah.
And it always
Also-
takes longer than you wanted it to.
yeah, of course.
We wanted to let candidates know that we're still, thinking about them, because it's been a number of months, and we'll
Yeah.
say, if we're interested, are you still available, sooner than later? So they don't go somewhere else.
Does everyone have an understanding of the process and timeline? Comfortable? Can we have a motion for approval?
Can I add one caveat to the conversation? Can we set a target date for hiring? February 15th, February 28th, just to put it there. And I know it all changes, but having a target helps. But it's not a deadline, it's a target, just so that we set that intention.
We could say. our-
January 16th?
Don't get your hopes
That's
up
what
on
I was
that
Might be
one.
the target you want to shoot for, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a
That
little
just
tight.
seems not possible to me. Let's say the February meeting, which is,
Second meeting.
target date of February
12th.
12th. That we would be able to vote at that meeting on our final candidate. Target.
I like that.
Thanks in advance for your interim work for that month.
I mean, in
You already
case we're
said
not
yes.
done by January.
We heard you, it's on record.
Should I make a motion for what I understand? Move to approve the city manager search process as follows. City councilors will review resumes and send in rubrics by November 28th. The HR committee will then choose 5 to 6, whatever, finalists. Then the HR committee will have initial interviews with those 5 or 6, right? We decided just the HR committee was gonna do those first round of interviews, is that correct? Then we will make a determination for the final 2. Then there will be opportunities for further interviews with the full council, interviews and meeting and greeting the staff, interview and meeting and greeting the community for the final 2. With a target date for selection of February 12th.
Second,
I think that captured everything.
Any discussion, questions?
Just on the numbers, you said 5 to 7, and then you said 2, everything, but it could be 2 to 3.
Sure, I'll say
depending
2 to 3,
on-
Or
Okay.
4,
or 4,
to the second interview finalists.
yeah.
2-ish.
again, targets,
few.
not
A
requirements.
few.
Yeah.
Several.
Several.
So for the weeding out process, I assume we'll be able to come up with some clever way of reporting back to the council. Basically, we read all your rubrics, here's how we weeded out with, just to, I don't know, through email or, in an executive session, or?
We might have to hold another executive
I
session.
mean, we could, right, if we're meeting on the 28th and then we kind of go through that, the December meeting, we could have an executive session and say, okay, everybody, these are the 2 to 3, these are the 5 to 7.
I'd like to have it early in December, because if we wait until like December 20th, when the meeting is, I think it's too long, because we're trying to meet that target date. We might have to have
Yes. A separate
a
executive
separate
session.
executive session council meeting.
Also, I think it'd be helpful to just go through and justify briefly, here's why we did this, so that if there is a counselor that said, well, I rated this person super high, I'd like to advocate more that we could have that conversation and maybe change our minds.
Do you want to schedule this December meeting now?
We're gonna have a special meeting with just an executive session.
Why don't we do
Yeah.
it Monday? So people
On
have
Monday.
time to look at calendars and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, either way, just, that way your calendars might be free now, but not at the end of November.
Do we have a place on the agenda that we can do that, though? Or do we just talk about? well,
Committee
it's-
reports?
Yeah.
That's good, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second in discussion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item number 12, adjournment.
Question. Sure. Does the chairperson vote, or do you waive, do you only vote if it's a tie?
Yes, I'm always unanimous. When I say unanimous, that means sorry. When I say unanimous, that means I voted. Sorry.
Some cities have, like, the mayor or the chair doesn't vote. They have a
Oh.
second
Unless
tie.
to break a tie.
Yeah. Nope.
We're not
I
advocating
think it's
that.
actually in your rules, that the chair can make motions, can vote.
Madam Chair, move to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Everything is pretty much this short, don't worry.